Yananjana Salakaya Suritamyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajunalam Yojo Kanakavara Sankirtanai Bhakto Kamalaya Tamsho Vishwamurari Yoga Yudharma Lalo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodika Gauraya Shri Chitra Samudra Shri Ramakrishna Padaya Charana Sakho Sukado Paramahando Sundaro Suparabhyo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudevi Naramami Hari Priye Shri Guru Vaishnava Guru Parampara Ki Jai Shri Guru Radha Madhava Ki Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Welcome everyone. Good evening. Nice to be with you. Yesterday was the Govardhan Puja. When is Prabhupada's disappearance?
Sunday.
Oh, what to do? Huh? How many of you be here who are here?
Oh.
You will not be here Sunday?
Oh, well, I don't know, I was thinking maybe we're gonna do later Sunday,
You will be here Sunday.
in the morning.
You will be here Sunday. Okay. So tonight we return to our discussions on Chaitanya Charitamrita, 8th chapter. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is going to tell a story, but he's prefacing that with a glorification, further glorification of the Panchatattva. And he's getting quite emotional here. And we're blessed to feel his spiritual emotions and how they play themselves out, however otherwise unpalatable in the way he expresses them with, for example, calling educated people who don't accept Lord Chaitanya croaking frogs. So he feels strongly about the matter. He continues along these lines. Eshab namane jeva kore Krishna bhakti. Krishna kripa nahi tore nahi targati. One who does not accept the virtues, the glories of the Panchatattva, but nonetheless, Kori Krishna Bhakti does Krishna Bhakti, engages in Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Kripa Nahi Tore, Nahi Targati. Krishna Kripa Nahi Tore, such persons, they will not get his Kripa. Krishna Kripa Nahi Tore, and Nahi Targati, neither will they attain the ideal love of Krishna. So this is a strong statement. Now, just previous to this, as we know, we heard in our last discussion, he spoke about scholars, educated people, and who knows exactly who he's referring to. There weren't a lot of atheistic scholars at the time. Atheism is popular now amongst the various Indian darshans or schools of philosophy. They could be described as being more or less, I don't mean more or less, but either more or less theistic. When we go through the Karma Mimamsa, the Yoga and Samkhya, they go together in twos, the six of them. Karma Mimamsa, Yoga, philosophy, and Samkhya, and Nyaya and Vaisheshika. These were the dominant philosophical currents in the time. And all of them had some regard for the sacred texts, Shastra. And only the Buddhists in the time who did not accept the sacred texts were technically considered to be atheists. Them, and of course the gross materialists, Buddhists would be kind of like what would you call it? Atheistic religion or something. Yeah, something like that.
Sat next to a Christian priest when I was flying out here for Daria's temple opening, and he said it's a greatest system of agnosticism. That was his Buddhism.
Agnosticism with regard to the personality of God, or to the position of God. Anyway, that's kind of in its own place. It's not atheistic by modern standards. They're considered still religious in some way and spiritual. They believe in things that are, they believe in the subtle realm and their idea of nirvana and so on and so forth, reincarnation going on. They're a little different today than atheists. They don't consider themselves atheists, but they were considered to be non-theistic because they didn't accept the sacred texts, which are thought to originate in the Godhead. But then there is another group, the followers of Charvak, who more or less said, Radha is the name of the barber's wife too, and therefore it's nothing sacred, and therefore you should eat, drink, and eat things cooked and eat, drink, and be merry, something like that. So this was not a popular current of thought, but it was there. I mean, atheism is addressed in the Bhagavad Gita very, very briefly in the second chapter, where Krishna is speaking about the nature of consciousness, the nature of the Atma, and so forth. He does have one verse where he refers to them. He doesn't give them much attention. Much attention hasn't been given in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, either, I should say. So who exactly the scholars are he's talking about? Well, they could very well be other religious scholars, other sampradayas. We can tell from his Krishnadas Kaviraj's effort to establish Krishna as a source of Narayan and identify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with that Krishna in the second chapter. That's his controversial argument that he himself says it's controversial, but one should not shy away from it. Controversy will help us to make progress and so forth. So it's apparent in his argument there, in a couple of places. One place he cites two verses from Jamunacharya, who's from the Ramanuja Sampradaya. I think he preceded Jamunacharya, Ramanuja. At any rate, very nice verses, and he's more or less saying, see, your verses are saying even what I'm saying. I can't recall them well enough to cite them at this point, but so you can see, if you look carefully, he's arguing with other Vaishnava groups and scholars as to the divinity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now you see how strong his statements can be. It's not clear exactly who he's talking about. Who are the scholars of the time, right? Who do not believe in the divinity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Well, it was none of these other sampradayas, because they're establishing a sampradaya at this time, and they're trying to make their case and so forth. So it makes the statement that much stronger. We talked about it and commented on it, his statement, where he compared the scholars who didn't accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as croaking frogs. We talked about it in terms of modern materialistic people who don't accept the supernatural or the transnatural, the idea that consciousness is not an emergent property of the brain and so on and so forth. These kinds of people, but here, those kinds of people weren't very prominent. Many scholars, of course, accepted that consciousness is independent of matter, and we are consciousness, and so on and so forth. So it's a very strong statement that he's making here, and he continues in the same vein. I mean, it's strong enough to call an atheistic, materialistic group of scholars croaking frogs. We'll just speak of other theistic scholars. And so he's, as you can see, he's moving along the same direction. And in this verse tonight, he's kind of revealing who the scholars are, as he says they're just like croaking frogs, and those who don't accept the glories of the Panchatattva, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but make a show of devotion to Krishna. He calls it a show of devotion to Krishna. They cannot get Krishna's mercy. They cannot attain the goal of life. So it makes his statement that much stronger. He's arguing with other theists, even other devotees of Krishna, Christians who he says it's Prabhupada's language, makes a show of, but a shab mane jebe kore Krishna bhakti. Basically, they do devotional service to Krishna. They serve Krishna, but they don't accept the Panchatattva. They don't accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, they cannot get Krishna's mercy, and they cannot get the goal of engaging in Krishna bhakti. So that's a very sectarian stand to take. Of course, he's in the midst of the work that's involved in establishing the sampradaya, and so you have to draw your lines of sort to make a sect. There is some virtue in sectarianism, and then it can also be used in a pejorative sense. To have a sect is not a bad thing. But then you might think, well, this is a little heavy. He's making a point like this, but he gives an example. It sounds like he's sectarian in a negative sense, not acknowledging the theism of others. But we know from earlier in the text that's not necessarily the case. When he labored early on in the second chapter, as I said, to make the point that from Scripture that Krishna is the source of Narayan, and that then to identify Mahaprabhu with Krishna. At the end of that chapter, he said, however, some people, and he's talking about like Ramanujas, Madhvas, and so forth. He said, some people may see him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as an avatar of Mahavishnu. And he said, that's also possible. That angle of vision is, you could look at it like that. It's not our angle of vision. And it's a Vaikuntha angle of vision. You could look at it like that. It's not very flattering, he says, but it's. So he does acknowledge their group, but the point he's making is if they don't acknowledge the very Krishna who's appearing in the world in the context of their worship of Krishna, and they don't acknowledge him, I think he means really here at first at all. There are some, and he's referred to them earlier, maybe they see him as an avatar of some type, of the Mahavishnu, and so he's divine, but he's not the source of Narayan and be all and end all of divinity. So that's okay, but to not accept his divinity and worship Krishna, this is a problem. And he having made such strong statements, he backs it up with some very good logic. Because how can someone be a devotee of Krishna, worshiping Krishna, just because he doesn't accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna? So why should his devotion to Krishna not be fruitful? Well, he gives an example. He says what? He says, Purve Daiche. Previously, it was such, we know from Scripture, Jarasandhadi Rajagan. Veda Dharma Kori Kare Vishnu Pujan. Previously, Jarasandha was a king who who was engaged in the Vedic Dharma, following the Varnashram system. And as such, he engaged in worship of Vishnu because the Varnashram includes the worship of Vishnu. Properly understood, the Bhagavatam, by the way, has its own version of Varnashram. It's brought out in the 7th chapter, it's the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, where it's entirely Vishnu-centered, as Prabhupada would explain it, something like use a bodily example. You have the head, the Brahmins, the arms, the Kshatriyas, the belly, the Vaishyas, the legs, the Sudras, and the heart that needs, all these are working for, so to speak, to keep it going, is the satisfaction of Vishnu. That's not the general idea of the Varnashram. Vishnu is just one of the other gods in there. But the Bhagavatam gives a very Vishnu-centered idea of Varnashram. The quality of the utterances about Vishnu are different than the quality of the utterances about Indra and others, even though the utterances in the Veda and the glorifications of others may be more in quantity. The quality of the utterances about Vishnu separate him and so forth. Anyway, so the Bhagavatam's position. But just making the point that in the context of Varnashram, Vishnu is worshipped one way or the other. Either he's just as one of the gods he's worshipped, or in a very Vishnu-centered sense of Varnashram. In either case, Jarasandha was a strict follower of the Vedic Dharma, and so he worshipped Vishnu. Right? Jarasandha worshipped Vishnu. You could say, as much as you apply yourself in Varnashram, then you're worshipping Vishnu. If the Varnashram comes from Vishnu, Krishna says, Chaturvarnamaya Shrishtam Gunakarma Vibhagasa. Tasya Kartaram Apimam Vidyakartaram Avyayam. Important what he says there in the 4th chapter of the Gita. He says, this system of Varna and Ashram comes from me. Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam. Shrishtam means creation. It's my creation. Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam. It's based on Guna Karma Vibhagas. The divisions there are based on one's qualities, Guna, and one's activities, karma. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasa. Tasya kartaram api mam vidyakataram. He says, but I, at the same time, am the non-doer, and I'm not vidyakataram. I am beyond it. The results from it are perishable. I am avyayam, imperishable, and I'm not found in it. By it, I cannot be attained. He's saying it's packed in there. Yeah, he's not launching into a whole advocacy there of Varnashram. He's making a point about himself being transcendent to the Varnashram system. It's not that Arjuna didn't know the system. He's saying, I'm the source of it. So if you want to talk about Dharma, you might want to talk about me. I'm the source of the whole Varnashram. It comes from me. And its results are perishable. He doesn't say that exactly, but he describes himself as imperishable. And we know the results are perishable. And that's very clearly taught in the Gita. So if people want to maybe stress this verse in the Gita, you have to understand the context, what Krishna is saying. He's speaking about his position is beyond it. He is imperishable. You cannot get the imperishable by the system of Varnashram. It's about getting good karma and going to heaven and staying there for a long time and then coming down again. Vidyakartaram. But because it comes from him, and so what's the purpose of it? Well, everybody doesn't have adhikar for bhakti. So the majority of people, Krishna says it in the Gita himself, that Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavadrina, Nirbandhudan Prasattvastoni Yoga Chematmavan. He asks Arjuna to come to another level beyond what most people are concerned with, and therefore what most of the Vedic Dharma is concerned with. Was that the three gunas? Trigunya Vishaya Veda. Most of the Vedas are about enjoying Vishaya within the gunas, within the material existence. So while we want to glorify the Vedas, you should know that mostly they're about material things, material knowledge, moving within this world for acquisition, and, getting happiness, avoiding stress, being pious, being religious, coloring your human life, tinting it with some consideration of God. So all of the human basic activities are to be performed in consideration of the divinate train. And it's a vague idea of the controlling factors and Godhead. And the devotion of it is kind of the low end we call gratitude. It's a big thing. It's a small thing compared to praying, just to be grateful for the bounty of life and to acknowledge that I'm not independent in the pursuit of the sense objects. My senses are pulling me towards. So it's there. It's for the general public, and of course, we should take it a little bit out of the Hindu context and see the universality of it. It's basically the Vedic Dharma, as it's described here. Again, this is a reference to Varnashram. Is basically the idea of a religious orientation to life as opposed to a spiritual orientation to life. In which we bring God into the picture of our human life and is the
currency. Morality is the currency.
Yeah, morality is the goal, is the ideal, is what's to be achieved, what's to be accomplished by it. That you be a righteous, pious, morally upright human being. Not a bad idea, given that we were coming, arguably, into humanity from animality. That's the Varnashram like a cage. Because if we come from animality on the scale of complexity of life, then to human life, then we are we be tamed. And there's possibility of domesticating us or of taming us. But you have to put them in a cage first. And you have to say, you can have, but you can't just have anything. So we make laws. We have urge. You might see a beautiful girl or guy in the mall and just want to jump on them, but you can't do that. If an animal does that, nobody says anything, but humans are not supposed to do that. So we try to curb the sensuality. Nobody disagrees. It's just where you want to draw the line, right? Everybody agrees that human beings should curb their sensual appetite. I think mostly, yeah, they do. on some level. And you have even, the thieves and the mobsters are stealing and so, but then they charitably give to their own, group and their community. And there's honesty amongst thieves and so forth. So where to draw the line? So what is it advocated? The religious life, the idea of controlling the senses, controlling the mind, curbing them to not just letting them go wild. If that is universally accepted as what it means to be a human being, the argument is let's hone that idea, because it's better to be a human being than an animal, and that you can be more kind, more caring, and giving is better than taking, and so forth. We start to experience this in human life, that the giving is more than the taking, and it's very subtle. as I often say, we don't get something that can hold up and say, I gave, and you see, I got this. But we got something, and people can see it in us, and then we become more desirable to associate with. We're celebrated in the world because we did not think of what the country could do for us, but what we could do for the country. And then you're down in history, right? Making the sacrifice and so forth. So this is how we celebrate human societies. Human society is celebrated to the in the measure and the extent to which the human shortcomings, which is like our animality, are risen above. In sports, you go extra mile. You do something, and even in that, there are events in sports where something happens and somebody voluntarily loses the race to help someone that fell, something like that, and then somebody else won the race, but that's like back pages and the front pages. Someone stopped and saved the life of the one who fell, something like that, fell off the horse or something. So to whatever extent we transcend the humanity, the animality, where there's no concern for such, where there's just the struggle to acquire, get as much as you can, sustain yourself. When you let go, and then you grow and you become big and you're celebrated. This is just very practical. We're not talking about anything different than that. I'm not talking about that spiritual idea from West Bengal that doesn't have any place. If you look at the core of it, we're saying this very principle. And how is it arrived at? How is it that humans stretch the limitations of the human experience, and transcend the animality, become givers rather than takers? How do they do that? They do that by some sense control, really, by curtailing their what might feel good for a better idea, a long-term subtle improvement rather than immediate gratification. So this is what sadhana is. So our idea is, if this really is what separates us from animality and really stretches the limits of what it means to be human, almost that there are superhumans. They did the superhuman thing. He sacrificed his life and saved so many people in the battle and so on. And he took on extraordinary powers, it seemed, and he passed. And so by sacrifice, sadhana is about sacrifice. This is what Brahma heard in meditation. Tapa, do sacrifice. Go within. Go within, or as we say, or go without. That's a fact. Either you go within or you go without. It's all within. It's not without. It's not on the outside. Life is this cusp between animality and spirituality. The only thing that makes humans different than the animals is truly the extent to which it gives us the opportunity to engage in transrational practices or religious life. Because we can say that there's a difference between animals and humans because we have intelligence, but if we use our intelligence for something other than what the animals use it for, then what is the difference? But we can use it for something rather than for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, as Prabhupada would say, which makes you a bigger animal, perhaps. another way of eating, another way of sleeping, and a better way of protecting yourself with bombs and planes and rockets and so on. Again, there's not a categorical difference here, but to the transnatural, to become supernatural, it means to conquer the human passions, to conquer them, to harness them, lust, greed, envy. This is to be superhuman. This is to be supernatural. As much as people, and so anyway, there's a system for this. There's the religious traditions, all of them. They teach this basically. Human life is a chance to pursue, is to use your intelligence, yes. And Christian also say here, use your intelligence, use your logic and reason to understand who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bring it forward. Let's talk about it. Use it. And we'll see its limitations and hopefully come to the conclusion that there's something that's trans-rational, and it's you. It's you. With reason, we cannot get a conclusion unto itself. Conclusive knowing that will be satisfying. Listen to it. I mean, you'll be surprised. Listen to Milton what's his name? Milton Friedman. You know, if you want to hear a conservative argument that way on the other side, and it's got great reasoning why welfare is bad, and sharing the income is folly, and what do they call it? Redistribution of the wealth and so forth. People like that can make fantastic arguments on the other side. Then you can get fantastic arguments. You'd be surprised. If you look at so that you can't arrive at a conclusion. You can arrive at a conclusion psychologically that works best for you, a particular type of reasoning and so forth. But the point is, by transcending the limits of logic and reason, you can come to another position. It's of real standing. Tarko Pratishtana, the sutras say. By reason alone, you get nowhere. So human life is meant for this. We say, if everybody agrees, every human agrees that you have to control your senses and control your mind. Don't you teach your kids that? Your kids are growing up, so you have to control yourself. No, you can't have that. No. You've had enough. No. And you train them. You have to control your senses. Control. So everybody agrees. We're not saying anything different. We're just saying, hey, that's a good idea. That makes you a better person. If you can really hone this, then we're talking about a whole system just focused on that. That's called the yoga. What will you be? As much as it takes you away from animality, then as much as it affords you such pursuit, all what a human life can be, and we see it. We see it in others who have transcended the limits of humanity. We see that human life is really this. It's like you're out of jail, you're on parole now. Deal with it properly, and you can become free altogether. You can enter the world of the free people. Understand that there is a control. You have to find your place in relation to the Godhead, and you can enter the kingdom of God, something like that. So nice ideas. They're practical. And so the Varnashram is basically like this. That's what it's about. It's a beginning idea to be a human being, to be a morally stout person, live in a cage, feed them, and a little bit, get trained up. Then you have general ideas. You can come out and you can be free and become a mukta and transcend the Varnashram. Dharma, Artha, Kama, moksha, mukti. Dharma Artha Kama means like a little bit, you're in the cage, you get a little bit, you do a good thing, you get another cookie, something like that. And then, okay, come on out. And yeah, go to the free world, something like that. Dharma Artha Kama, moksha. So Krishna gives this as the general system, and it fits for most people. I mean, let's face it, most people are not interested in this. Many people who are interested in this don't understand it, and then it turns out they don't really want to understand it. They just don't have the adhikar for it. That's why if you can, in this life, really come to the conclusion, what I am is a sadhaka, and that's really something. I've really gone somewhere. One of my godbrothers was sitting with Pujapat Sridhar Maharaj on the veranda. He said, Guru Maharaj, today's my birthday. No, today's a very inauspicious day. And Sridhar Maharaj said, really? What is it? It's the day I was born. And Sridhar Maharaj said, inauspicious. It's very auspicious. In this life, you've got human life. You go to this from the Purana, from the aquatics, you evolve to the reptiles, to the birds, to the beasts, plants, birds, human life, and in human life, in this and you have Durlabha Janama, you have a very rare birth. And Durlabha Jana, Satsangi. You have Satsanga, you have association with the sadhu. Abhay Charanadavindu, the song works nicely. His guru, of course, was see, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Abhay Charanadavindu, Bhaktivedanta Swami. So Sridhar Maharaj is saying, you've come so far. My godbrother Vishnu Jan Maharaj, I've sometimes cited him in this regard. He used to say that the distance we have traversed thus far before meeting our Guru is far, far greater than the distance we have to go from this point onward. Now we go with guidance and affection. An example, precept, and so forth. The way is easy now. So Sridhar was saying the same thing. We saw such an auspicious birth. Well, you may to be able to do to be in this life, to be engaged in bhajan, and have the adhikar for this. You have adhikar for bhakti. You have some adhikar for rag bhakti. That's your ideal, but you're coming in that kind of lineage, so that's fine. But the measure of your adhikar is still something that has to be determined in terms of how you apply yourself within the lineage. Therefore, we have the ajata ruchi rag bhakti, without taste, still a rag bhakta. But can he or she incorporate all the practices? Meditation requires some qualification, right? So, and that's central, smaranam, to rag bhakti. So without that qualification, you can do rag bhakti. All you have to do is want it. Okay, but you can do the smarana that's part of it, that's central to it. Well, that requires some qualification. So I remember Bhaktisundar Govinda Maharaj said something like that. And on this life, he said, you may not be able to do bhajan in deep bhajan. But it wasn't a concern. He was speaking, it shouldn't be of a concern. This is where you have to arrive at. I'm on the path. I'm really on the path. I'm becoming a Shastravit. I'm learning what the actual teachings are. Which year goes by and, oh, that's the teaching. Oh, that's the teaching. That's what that verse means. Oh, this is good, huh? Good. That you're getting solidified on the path and practicing honestly. That's a huge, huge accomplishment. No worries. One has to come to think. I was asked that, Guru Maharaj, is it possible to attain Vrindavan in one life? I said, no, it's not possible to attain in one life, but in one life, you will attain. Generally, it's not possible in one life. I mean, it is possible. Generally, it's not possible in one life, but in one life, you will. So, you have to come to some point. One life, I will. What will that life be? When you can say, like Mahaprabhu said, Mama Janmani Janmanish Pure, Bhagavad Bhakti Rahita Kitoi. He had ruchi. He said, I don't care about birth, transcending birth and death. I only want to do bhakti in any situation. I like bhakti. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamni. And the things of the world I have no taste for. But I have taste for bhakti. I like bhakti. And I don't care whether for transcending birth and death is not a concern for me. I just want to do bhakti in any situation. This is the beautiful statement of Mahadev. Was it Mahadev said? Yes. Glorifying Chitraketu and the devotees of Vishnu. What did he say? Abhitudartha darshanam, as he said. Swarga pavarga nara keshu abhitudartha darshanam. Apavarga. Whether you're liberated, unliberated, heaven or hell, it doesn't matter. This is the position of Chitraketu. But what's her name? Parvati cursed it and just accepted it. And Mahadev said, see the position of the devotees of Vishnu. They don't care about liberation. It's not a concern. So Mahaprabhu said like this. This is in the stage of ruchi, still in sadhana bhakti, but the higher end of sadhana bhakti. So when you get like that, it's not a concern. So he says, is it possible in this life to attain? When you stop worrying about that, then it is possible. That's not the concern. The concern is to serve. Not to worry whether I'm going to get something as a result of the service. So, adhikar, eligibility, this is we're dwelling on for the moment. And the majority of the people, as the Gita says, I cited earlier, are catered to by the greater balance of the Veda, dealing with how to move in the world. You want sense gratification, you want material happiness, we've got a system. That's what the Veda, we've got a system for it. How much happiness do you want? You want a long life? Right? You want to pray for a long life? We can give you a life for millions and millions and millions of years. Where in that life, there will be no suffering, no old age until the last year. Just the last year. What do you think? So it's to coax people. If you want these things, we've got a way to give it to you. You mumble this mantra here, you pour this here and that there, and this time, this, you don't do this, and you don't do that. A few little things that you have to have in place, and you can get that. You go to celestial worlds. This is playing on what they already want, right? And just trying to harness a little bit and prospect, and court to prospect what you will attain, and fear what will happen to you if you don't. Then you may go down. Your capacity to enjoy may go down. You may descend back into the animal kingdom. So these are the motives: fear and prospect. And to govern the general religious idea. This is not just India. This is basic religious mode, if you will. It's so much misunderstood to be, unfortunately, the whole thing. That's why you can understand Narada chastise Vyas, like, people can just the way you've written about it, they're going to think just ordinary religion is the whole goal. Hmm? Or maybe they're a little more thoughtful, they're going to think mukti is, of course, that's in the picture too, so distant goal. So you should come out and then he very strongly comes out. Dharma projita kaita gotra paramo nirmat saranam sam savai pumsa paro dharma ito bhakti shamayu hi kevalam. All this crashing down on Varnashram. The first canto just powerfully, heavy from that onset. The second verse, Dharma projita kaita gotra. Just like Gita ends, Bhagavatam begins. Sarva dharman pratyabja. Gita says. Bhagavatam says the same at the end. Gita says, Bhagavatam says the same thing at the beginning. Dharma projita kaita gotra. Give up the dharma, worship of different gods and so forth. And the business arrangement in the name of spirituality. Go from the religion, give up religion. The Bhagavatam says. The Gita says, if you want me, Krishna, you have to give up religion. And the Bhagavatam says, this is not for the religious people. This is for the nirmatsaranam satam. In religious life, there's so much envy. Go to church and see what's he wearing, what's she wearing, what kind of car they drive up in. This goes on. Those circles. And therefore, you have the examples in the Bhagavatam, so many of them, of what? The devas, Indra becomes envious, right? Somebody's going to take my place. Somebody's going to get a better spot than me. And so this is all within the realm of religion. Envy, self-concern, and so forth. The amount of love in there, which is the amount of giving and selflessness, is very, very small. So it gives examples, a number of examples of the king of heaven. Indra means the chief, the CEO of heaven. There he is. And gosh, he does embarrassing things. Goodness, how can you think like that? The point is, that's what religious life involves these things. Spiritual life is nirmatsaranam satam. There's no cheating there. It's truthful, honest to the core, and nirmatsar, no envy. And this, you have to have this. This is your adhikar for entering the Bhagavatam. So if you enter without that, then you have some problem understanding. You may be in opposition to some of the things that it says there, and you may misunderstand what it's about. So it's there, but the book describes it at the onset. Who is eligible to enter into it and understand it? And that standard itself is very high. It is after Dharma Jignashu, after Brahma Jignashu. It is Rasa Jignashu. Jignashu means to inquire. Inquire about Dharma. Be a moral person. And if you do that really well, then you can qualify to inquire further. Become a perfect human. You can inquire about, you become interested from the Veda by becoming a perfect human, about everything in the Veda. And you start finding there's things that say I'm not a human, that I'm an Atma. Goodness. It's a small section here in the back. Krishna told Arjuna, skip to the back. Trivunya Vishaya Veda, Nistrayvunya Bavarjuna. Oh, it's so nice what he says. Anya, what is it? Ananyas Chintayan Yomam, Yajana Paripasate, Tesha Mityabhiyuktanam, Yogacheman, Mahamyaham. He's speaking about bhakti. He says, skip to the back. But in between the lines, go to the Bhagavatam and throw the rest of the Veda out. He says, Cut
to the chase.
Cut to the chase. New Yoga Chema. New Yoga Chema. Ananyas Chintayantamam, Yajana Paripasate, Tesha Mityabhiyuktanam. Tesha Nityapayuktanam. What is it?
Bhajatam Prantipu.
No. Ananyas Chintayantoham Yejana Paripasate. Tesha Nityapayuktanam Yoga Chemam Vahamyam. Yoga Chemam is the same. He's speaking about bhakti. I come into the picture in a big way. I take care of you. I sustain what you. Which is Saranagata. I sustain them. I give what they have, I preserve what they have, I carry what they lack. I make up for it. In religious life, you have to do everything right. God's hardly involved. You got to do all these technical things just perfect and say the mantras right and so forth. In bhakti, God is so present that you can't go wrong. Therefore, it said about Hare Krishna, you can chant Hare Krishna mantra in your sleep, while eating. Normally, you don't do the puja while you're eating, but you can chant Hare Krishna while eating, while sleeping. That's while stumbling and falling, and still. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to do it like that. It means to say what to speak of if you pay attention. It means to say you should pay attention to this chanting. It's so valuable. And Nam Namakari Bahudani Visarvashakti Tatrapita Niyamita. Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranina Kala. The no hard and fast rule of numbers, many names, full of my Shakti, Krishna Shakti. It's a different religion altogether. This is the religion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Varnashram, that's a small thing. It's the other opposite end of the spectrum of religious life. You have Prem Bhakti on this end and Varnashram on this end. But again, not everybody's qualified. I mean, Arjuna is Krishna's, of course, using him as an example. Qualified. In the end, he becomes qualified. In the beginning, he's not qualified. He says, you can only do this, you can only do this. In the end, he says, don't do any of that stuff. Give it all up. In the beginning, he says, you should do this. Later, he says, give that up. You have to follow the Gita carefully. People just say, oh, see, Krishna says you should do your duty. Well, in the end, he says you should give it up. And just serve him. So, anyway, some place there for Varnashram. And Mahaprabhu coming and giving this extraordinary benediction. And through sadhu sangha, you become qualified without going through the normal course of inquiring into religion, inquiring into Brahman, and immediately inquiring into rasa. Would like to inquire appropriately in the context of Chaitanya's mission. You see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at the end of his life, he sat, did bhajan with Ramananda and Swarup, and he was active in Sankirtan and temple worship, and so going to the Jagannath temple. He was not going to the Jagannath temple. Heart has become a temple, worshiping internally and so forth. So, here at any rate, up on a bit of a tangent about Varnashram, but the Varnashram is cited, that's how we went there, by Krishnadas Kaviraj. He is saying that Jarasandha was a religious man. And in a broad sense, he worshipped Vishnu, because the Varnashram is for pleading Vishnu, and he was very stout in his adherence to the Vedic Dharma. And what? The point is, he's considered a demon. In the Bhagavatam, he's considered a demon. Now, a demon is a strong word. So when we think, you're saying people have horns, and, it's a pretty, strong term. But the Sanskrit word is asura. Asura. Asura means also like, Ra means to ramante, to enjoy. Asu can mean quickly, to enjoy quickly. Also means the senses. So who likes to enjoy the senses? Who wants to enjoy quickly? You could say means immediate. gratification rather than the prayas, rather than the shreyas, long term. You might forego immediate for a bigger idea, something like that. So this predilection towards the former, this is what is called an asura. And it's the opposite of the suras, the godly people, so the non-godly. So he was considered non-godly. And again, the more we move towards sense indulgence, the less godly we become, less human we become, the more animalistic-like we become, and so forth. And in which animal forms, but there's no scope for religious pursuit directly. There is about bhakti that they can be engaged, of course. That's one of the beauties of bhakti. But so anyway, the point is, he's making that if you worship Krishna, but you do not have regard for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, then I say that you're a demon, and you won't get the goal, the result. And here's my example, he says. Jarasandha, he worshipped Vishnu. Vishnu is God, but he didn't worship Krishna. He tried to kill Krishna. So what is the meaning of worshiping Vishnu if you're trying to kill Krishna? You're doing it, you're going through the motions, he's doing it all. He's worshiping Vishnu through the Varnashram. But he attacked Krishna 17 times with his armies and all. Because his daughters were the wives of Kamsa. And they were left, bereft. Cahoots with Kamsa. And so Jarasandha's a big guy. I mean, because of Jarasandha, we can say that Krishna didn't return to Vrindavan right away, because he thought, well, if I return to Vrindavan, then all his armies will come there, crushing all the people and so forth. So better to go distract him. I'll go to the shore of the ocean in Dwarka, build a palace, an army there. And this is one of his excuses for not coming back to Vrindavan. It doesn't work so well with you Brajbasis, such excuses. But of course, really the whole Leelas outside of Vrindavan are all pointing back to the glory of Vrindavan and the love that they maintain and increase even in his absence and so forth. So anyway, he gives a good example. He tries to support his point, which is a very strong point. He says, look, you may be worshiping Krishna, recognize Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Krishna, who has come to give Krishna in a way that he's never been given before, access to him. This has been described in previous chapters. And so you are just like the Jarasandha who worships Vishnu and then turns around and tries to kill Krishna. So, useless, he says. And then he backs up his point. Krishna nahi mani tate daicha kori mani. Chaitanya na mani le daicha tare jane. One who does not accept Krishna is certainly a daitya, another word for lower class people, certainly a daitya. Similarly, anyone who does not accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna is also considered a daitya. He says, More na manile shab lok hobe nash itilagi kripa Prabhu korila sannyas. So he said, Mahaprabhu thought about people like this who might not accept it, and for that purpose, for that reason, he took sannyas. He took sannyas for that purpose. And it says, sannyasi buddhye more koribe namaskar. He said, he's very merciful, although he is Krishna himself. And people might not recognize it, so for their benefit, that they may honor him in some way, he took sannyas. And if they regard him as a sannyasi, then they'll be purified. So he kind of comes down a little bit. He says, if they at least accept him as a sadhu, as a sannyasi, and then they worship him, even with the wrong idea, but they don't know the best, then their material desires will go away, he says. Tatapi kondive yuka porive nishtar, and they will get some kind of liberation anyway. So he's speaking very strongly, but he speaks also about the compassionate nature of Mahaprabhu. He says they should all accept him. I don't know if they don't have their demons, but actually he took sannyas, and even if they just worship him that way, he's very kind. So he'll give them something extraordinary. Then him kripa moy chaitanya nabhaje jejan sarvottam huileo tore asure gana. One who does not show respect at all to this merciful sannyasi, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who does not worship him, he should be considered, what word does he use? Asura. He should be considered an asura. Even if by other standards he's exalted in human society. Therefore, he says, Ataigo punakahun utprabhahuhan Chaitanya Nityananda Vaja Kutaka Chariya. He said, therefore I say, lifting my arms, O fellow human beings, worship Chaitanya and Nityananda without any false arguments. We'll stop there tonight. Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai. Dai Chand ki jai. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Mahashaya ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Oh, Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripanam Bhavanam Vaishnavavrinda ki jai.